My interpretation of gender-based violence is that it is unfair discrimination of a human being based on the premise of their sex, gender, and sexual orientation, and it creates arbitrary and harmful biases and privileges. There are four key elements surrounding gender-based violence that I want to unpack before I even get to answering the question. The first is with regards to the creation of biases and privileges. In other words, gender-based violence must both elevate and subjugate in order for one side to rise and the other one to be compromised and to go down. So gender-based violence is therefore a non-scientific methodology which enables the empowerment and disempowerment of two different demographics or two or more different demographics, because basically what happens on the left side of the equation does not happen on the right side of the equation. Based on sex, gender, and sexual orientation, what this ultimately means is that every single human being can be a subject of this violence as long as it falls in the basis of those realms. Unfair discrimination and arbitrariness. In other words, there's something called fair discrimination that exists, and sometimes that gets weaponized against us as you are seeking social justice. So fair discrimination is a situation wherein an imbalanced equation is rebalanced not by means of equality, but by means of equity, meaning that we must do whatever it takes on the left side in order to balance the right side of the equation. Unfair discrimination, however, is different in that it does not care for any types of mathematical principles and logical reasoning. It forces predetermined outcomes that are random, non-scientific, and irrational, which then brings me to my last key element, which is actual harm. In order for there to actually be an instance of gender-based violence, there has to be a cumulative result of damage that is done. And this damage may or may not be visible to the naked eye, but it's always real to the person or the people who experience it. And it ultimately impacts the whole of society and not just the individual. But the harm is always real. So we're not just talking about perceived harm, but real harm. And so now that we've established our point of departure for our discussion, I want to then unpack a phenomenon called school-related gender-based violence.